the school, yo. Then I think I'm answer. Some say pull up your pants and put it on your waist and tuck in your shirt and don't bleach your face. In my days that me a meditate, so me study for the test, me no procrastinate. Early to school, me no have time for late. Sit down in a exam, am I the great? Me no get nothing less than 98. When school open, me never avoid the gate. School youth, no pants too tight. This a no dancing dynamite. Make your mother proud, you no see how she fight.
Good evening, listeners. This evening welcome to this evening's edition of Jam Talk Radio Show. I am your host, Kimberley Thompson. I have with me on the phone line Ms. Shandona Burton. She's a PNP-YO divisional representative. And we will be looking at the Minister of Education's proposal to remove auxiliary fees out of school and examine the possible effects that this will have on our education system. You can text your name and comments to 330-1887. Before we proceed though, let us examine the definition of auxiliary fees. Auxiliary in itself means giving assistance or support, additional, supplementary, acting as a subsidiary. Let me clearly state my position that I am in no way disputing the removal of auxiliary fees from high schools. My major concern is, how is it that the Jamaica Labour Party will fill the deficit caused by this? Remember now, the JLP has a track record of making announcements that they do not know exactly how they will execute or fund, as in the case of the $1.5 million tax break for civil servants. Before I decided to even comment on this particular issue, I did some research on the ongoing debate surrounding the removal of the fees, and a number of newspaper articles surfaced. I dare say, unless the Jamaica Labour Party is able to state clearly how they are going to fund the schools and outline the source of funding for long-term sustainability of the free school program, I unapologetically agree with the views of the PNP on the subject. I will now turn over to Ms. Burton and take her first view. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Okay. So seeing the problems in school and being a sixth former at a high school, the removal of auxiliary fee, it could benefit the country, but is it going to be a long-term goal, considering the fact that even now in our present school system, we find ourselves with debt, shortages, lack of resources, and comfort for children. So,
alright, so you are now saying that presently, the schools are collecting auxiliary fees, but at the same time, they are facing difficulties. But what the Minister of Education has proposed is that he will be moving the subsidy, the government subsidy, from $11,500 to $19,000. But in my view, this is not sufficient. What's your take?
Mr. Philip, former Minister Finance stated that this could cause an increase in the government of between $3.1 million to $5 million. Now, my take is that where will they find the additional funds considering the other promises that were made?
Well, I am inclined to agree with you. Nelson Mandela, he is the former South African president, co-founder of the National Congress Youth League and freedom fighter. He said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. End of quote. And in my view, it must never be tampered with. So if this is something that the government knows that they will not be able to sustain on a long-term basis,
it shouldn't be in place, because the education system, as you said, it cannot be. So we need to see where this money is coming from for which to be a long-term goal, because it is workable. But where will they fund all this?
It is workable, and considering Jamaica, which is a third world country, we would welcome it. In fact, we would love to have everything free. But how will the government actually finance it? Where will they find these resources? And I find it interesting that the two parties have complete different takes on the subject, because during my reading, I saw an article on the 7th of August in 2013 where former Minister of Education, the Honorable Reverend Ronald Thwaites, he was reminding parents and guardians that the auxiliary fee required by schools is a mandatory payment which is essential to their child's education. Remember, this is like a subsidy. It's an alternative. This is the fee that schools use to fix a broken chair, fix a broken window. How?
And even with this auxiliary fee, then we are still having these current problems in the schools. So,
what is the cost of the auxiliary fee at the high school that you attend?
it's $6,000.
Well,
Yes.
that's rather cheap, because the last time I checked, about a year or two ago at a high school in the corporate area, the auxiliary fee there was somewhere about $28,000. So I am now thinking, if we're going to remove $28,000 per student and up this government subsidy,
The increase the government is giving is $7,500.
it still won't be able to cover it.
Cover the 28,000.
These schools will still be deficient. We know how essential these fees are. We need quality education. We have been attaining it. In fact, the colleges and universities are packed, but high school sets the pace for every child's future. We want to ensure that this is not taken for granted, and this stance that the government is now taking will not have negative long-term effects.
And that this will not have a breakdown on our school system.
What are some of the breakdowns that we're talking about?
Well, the inadequate resources for our teachers, because even at the meeting with the principals and chairman, principals highlighted that this issue needs to be answered with care because it's a delicate one and it should not be rushed into, and it is said that it will be made effective on coming September. I do think if this is supposed to work and be a workable thing, then we need to take time and plan this out properly, finding where we're going to get the finances from.
Well, it seems as though you and I are on the same page, because I honestly believe that this should be a very transparent decision. The public needs to know.
And the public is questioning what is actually going to happen.
All right, Shandona, please hold the line. We have with us here Councillor Hubert Williams from the White Horses Division in St. Thomas, and he would also like to add something to the subject.
Good afternoon. Ms. Shandola.
Yes.
Pleasant good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Listeners, good afternoon. My view on the subject is very simple. And before I even touch on my view on the subject, I have a big problem with how this is done. Because the Jamaica Labour Party, for some reason, they have a very common tendency. Their tendency is normally to roll out these projects or plan without even checking how we're going to finance them and how we're going to finance them in a consistent way. And this has just been a common practice for them. And I think it's about time Jamaica take a very serious look at it. As Kimberley said earlier, education should never be tampered with. And I think at this point in time, that's exactly what we're doing. You see, for us to implement a plan like this. They should be careful in terms of analytical views and careful. We should debate it and try to get information from both sides of the aisle and stuff like that. We need to look at the actual figures in terms of numbers. How much more money we're going to need to do this. We can't just get up as a nation and just make these big promises to people. It's not right, and we need to stop it. Because, take for example, a high school in the corporate area that maybe charge about $20,000 for auxiliary fee. Now, if we're going to give them anything less than that, clearly they would have to reduce their standard.
Yes, they are going to be at a disadvantage.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely right.
So we have to care about that. Let's remember again, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of these schools were struggling even when they were collecting these auxiliary fee. Now they're going to get a smaller amount.
Because Shandona's school at present is collecting $6,000. $6,000 for an academic year is a piece of cake when you think of material fee, caution fee, and all of those things. Students who work in the laboratory, say one child breaks a burette, $6,000 cannot cover that cost.
And I'm going to go a step further. If you listen to the former finance minister, he stated clearly yesterday that there were no need to change the plan. I take a little different position from you guys here now. I don't agree, period, with getting rid of the auxiliary fee. I don't agree with it. I'm going to tell you why.
So,
In the yes.
Are you saying that the plan, even when put together and well constructed, cannot work? Period.
No, I don't think that's what he's saying.
No, what I'm going to say, I'm going to explain myself. If you listen to Dr. Peter Phillips yesterday, what he said, no children or child could be turned away from school because of the auxiliary fee.
No, they could not. What the former Minister of Education had said was that people who were facing difficulty would have been given time to pay the fee over the course of the school year.
Hold on now. So, the problem is the same thing that the healthcare system run into. Those who can afford to pay something should pay something. It's only fair. I'm in a position that I can pay my child auxiliary fee. Why should I send my child to school or push for a free system when I can afford to pay something? I'm just saying it's like the user fee at the hospital. We should have never get rid of a user fee, because then after getting user fee, we started running a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I have my health insurance, and when I go to the hospital, my health insurance is not billed, so it's not even me who getting the benefit. It's my health insurance provider who's actually getting the benefit, because they should receive a bill each time I go to the hospital.
And I'm happy that you brought up that point, because we can compare and contrast. Look at the health sector. Many will argue that yes, healthcare is free. But what is the efficacy? How efficient is it? You go to the hospital, you wait for 23 hours, you are seen by a doctor, you are given a prescription, but when you go to drug serve, the medication isn't there. The system really isn't efficient, and we don't want a repeat of that in education.
Kimberley, I'm saying the healthcare system, it cannot be free, yet the quantity and quality is not on par. So I do not agree that healthcare is actually free.
Well, it is free.
Well, they say it is free, but back to the
It's just not efficient.
They say it is free.
I just use the healthcare system as an example. What I'm saying in regard to education at this point in time, take a school in the rural area that is charging $6,000. Any parent who really interested in their child or children education, they can pay that over a year time.
They should be able to.
And it should be a commitment.
I agree.
to their kids' education. Let's not get in this whole election promise and all. I don't have time for that. Let me tell you something. That's the reason why I really support an overall constitutional reform of the Jamaican system. The reason why I say this, there should be no minister or no prime minister or no party that can just come up with these big promises and implement them. These things should go through the House of Parliament and the House of Senate. It should be done in a transparent way. There should be debates. All the information should come out. And then based on the information that come out of these discussions, then we move for a vote and the majority carry. These decisions are too big for any single individual to make.
Education should never be tampered with, and what I'm seeing here is a loose cannon situation. It's like you put something inside and you just throw it out there, not caring about tomorrow. People, I believe that the nation should know and we should understand how exactly. I don't want, when the fees are implemented this September and people are looking forward to the payment next year, we hear that the PNP had spent the money that they were looking forward to use to finance it. So that is my major concern. I am not in any way disputing it because we are all Jamaicans and we love freeness.
I will also add again, and I don't know if other Jamaicans think the way I think, but I can't understand our little third world country, a country that have to be doing business with the IMF. Let's remember now, IMF is not the Bank of Nova Scotia, or NCB, or any commercial bank of sort. IMF is a last resort bank. You don't go to the IMF if things are going okay. You only go to the IMF when things are not going okay. So if you're in an IMF deal, obviously the country is not on track. So we are on an IMF deal. We should be thinking about paying on the debts and stuff like that. We can't just think that everything in this country is supposed to be free. This can't be the land of the free. I just can't see, I can't agree with the direction that this administration is taking the country. And I'm telling you, we are on the road to bankruptcy.
As you mentioned about the IMF and debts, that is true, and I couldn't agree more. Our fiscal deficit is very high, and the higher it gets, the interest rates are going to skyrocket. But yeah, we understand that the economy should be given priority as well. But seeing that the government has come up with the auxiliary fee removal, we have to discuss it.
We cannot throw it out of the book. It is an issue that must be discussed.
It is an issue that must be discussed. It cannot be thrown out the window. But as you are saying, and I can't agree more, there will be many shortfalls. You are now currently in the education high school system, a sixth form student. What exactly, in terms of resources, can you give us some examples of the deficits that you are now facing, even though the auxiliary fees are in place?
Debt shortage, and this can result in the disadvantage of class time, because while you're having class time, children are looking, they start searching the entire compound, finding where to sit and have class. Teachers lock in markers, writing instruments for class. At
Wow.
my school presently we are lacking in space, class spaces, and we need.
So your school would want to be, it would want an expansion and a reduction
Yes.
in class size.
It needs a reduction in class size. It needs to be expanded.
Wow. So now we are seeing a school in the rural area collecting $6,000 for auxiliary fee each academic year per student, and yet they are not able to operate efficiently.
And surprisingly, the students do extremely well, because it is said that at a school that is lacking in so many resources, even in the old economic department and where the agricultural area is concerned, the school excel well, but they are lacking in resources. It means that the children are having added pressure. They are being pushed to do beyond.
You are pushed by your teachers and principal.
Yes, we are.
We must commend them.
Must be commended.
We must commend them. That means it is safe to say that these teachers and this principal has the lives of these students. They have their best interests at heart.
They have their best interests at heart.
And this is all we're asking for from the education minister, to have the interests, the best interest for the students of Jamaica at heart.
Even though we have teachers who are striving and are doing well, then I do not think the educational system should pressure these teachers more than how they are undergoing pressure. So we need to get the resources to assist them in making education much easier.
Most definitely. But you know what I find surprising? I find that the two major political parties have two completely different stances on the subject. The Jamaica Labour Party is saying remove auxiliary fee, but the People's National Party is saying that the auxiliary fees must be paid. And if a family or a parent, guardian, etc. is facing difficulty in paying that fee, then they should be given time.
In place to say yes, but we cannot have it to say that we are removing auxiliary fees, and then we have it to say that those who can pay should pay. And nobody will pay if it is going to be removed.
It cannot be optional.
Cannot be.
Cannot be optional.
Parents who cannot afford the auxiliary fee can come in and sit with the school and the chair and say, well, I'm going to work a payment plan to say how much I can pay at a certain time and work with the school system. That's it.
Most definitely.
Most there definitely. Are payment plans in place to assist parents in getting fees paid, even at the sixth form level.
Is this information accessible to the public that payment plans are in place? Are all students aware of it so that they can pass the information on to their parents?
I am not sure if every student is aware of it, but I can say for my school and at my group, my class group, I know that we are all aware of this payment plan, because a lot of sixth formers is on the payment plan where fees are concerned.
And that is great. That is awesome. I am looking at another newspaper article from June 20, 2012. It's actually a Gleaner article, wherein the then education minister was saying that auxiliary fees represent a necessary part of a school's ability to finance their operations. These fees, which are worked out in conjunction with representatives of parents and principals, are not optional extras which you pay if you feel like.
Which is right. I agree.
Because what he's saying is that many schools are already collecting less than 30% of the already small fees.
Already, because even though there are payments in place, there are some who are not following the plan.
There are some who still refuse to pay. So yes, if when the fees... Yes, go ahead.
You will still have it among the system where some will not pay.
But what I'm saying is, if when the fees are in place, we have less than 30% paying, can you imagine if these fees become optional?
I I think the government should really sit down and think over these things and let the public be aware of what are the plans and how it should be financed, because this, as I said, it is a very delicate issue and it must be handled with care.
And for those of us on social media, we would have seen the comments. There are persons going both for and against. One person, yes,
it has been questioned on social media.
One Facebook user said, "Be careful, school suffering already. See what happened to the hospitals." That's the same issue that our counselor brought up earlier. One reader opined. A further comment expressed similar views, stating, "LOL, mash up our education and health system. Some more, will you? Free this, free." A third reader commented that schools are already suffering with more fees. Remove things will get worse. We can't expect things to be free in this country. The money is just not there. Ask school admins what's happening if you think a lie.
Yes, because I am sure we all have the country's best interest at heart where our education system is concerned. But I do not believe at this stage in our economy we are supposed to remove auxiliary fees from high school. It just, I don't see it as a working factor right now. And for September coming, I don't see it happening.
I don't see it either. Yet another reader opined, auxiliary fees are what help the schools in additional supplies that's needed. I do not agree. The problem is the mind frame of Jamaican people. Love handouts, freeness. Then, of course, there were readers who had mixed views about the government's announcement. There was one who said, "I applaud the government for once again removing auxiliary fee, but how do you get the schools to comply? So many students have faced embarrassment from school officials to include withholding much needed resources." An additional comment was, "Really? Hope this plan was properly thought out, as some of the schools now can barely survive without parents contributing to several projects to raise funds in order to help the school." Another one expressed, "I'm not sure if this is really a good or bad thing for us. Is it the same as saying free education? Reason this free thing always never work out. Look at all the mishaps since the free health came in." And this free health and free education thing, as we see, people are comparing and contrasting them. We have still not revived the health sector. So why go into another ministry, into another delicate area of our country's growth? Because
of our country's growth, let us focus on what is already there. That is what they need.
What we probably should be doing is trying to find ways to provide the medication for those among us who are sick.
Yes, because there are shortages in medication in various hospitals across Jamaica.
Trying to reduce our fiscal deficit. We say we are independent, but we are not really independent. We cannot finance ourselves. And another important issue that our nation is now facing is that we very soon we may not be able to feed ourselves. And a nation cannot be fully independent if we are unable to feed ourselves, because what we are really doing is turning the farmlands into housing developments. But
and Jamaica is a third world developing country, and it's an agrarian country, and what we need to know is that we are a developing country. We are not yet at the stage of being developed.
And we are
so agriculture is an important sector for the economy development.
So basically what we are doing, as our grandparents would say, is putting our heads where our hands can't reach it.
Exactly.
Because when we are going to say remove auxiliary fees, it's not like you are saying it is something tentative, It's something that you are putting out there as though it will be signed, sealed, and delivered.
And I do applaud the idea of removing auxiliary fees. See, I do applaud it, but not in this state we are in right now.
Not in this case, and not in the case that it is coming from the desk of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Not in this case.
Because they have so many other election promises to deliver on.
And it brings the question, how many of these promises will they fulfill?
How many? I
And
wonder
I'm
too.
not seeing it working.
It's not working for any of us, and it would be very unfair for me to even say, oh, I'm glad me come out of the high school system already. That would be selfish. We actually have to move towards the betterment of our nation.
And we have to look on the ground of our youth, because the youth are the future.
The youths are the future.
So we should have their best interest at heart, and anything that will compromise their success, they know the country should stand and make a stand and say, no, it cannot happen.
So what about your young people, the young people in your division? How do they feel about the removal of auxiliary fees? Are they elated about it?
I have not yet met one of my young people in my division who is elated about this idea, because we are aware and we are educated on the promises of the Jamaica Labour Party, and we will not be fooled into believing that auxiliary fees will be removed for only September. If it does happen, and then October, November, the school system is down. Education system. So I have not yet met one of my young people in my constituency who yet to believe or agree with the removal of auxiliary fees.
Isn't that sad?
And we are not pushing a campaign against auxiliary fees or against the Jamaica Labour Party. We are educated on the fact based on what we know about the Jamaica Labour Party presently and their promises.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Because, you see, what is really...
Those who can...
Political to make you guys, to make us in the dollar. So I'm saying, we should be focused more there. And for Trinidadian products, see what I don't like in life, you know. You can't, it's like I would not go to
how it will be financed.